Podcast with Joe Sanok, session number 1347. I'm Joe Sanok, your host, and welcome to the Practice of the Practice podcast, where we help you build a thriving private practice you absolutely love. As you just heard, we have some openings in our consulting world. We have some brand new consultants that have just joined the team. We have Adam Lewis Walker, who is helping people to find, get, plan, and do TEDx's. And so, really excited about him joining the team. We've got Doug, who just joined the team, who has a clinician base of 120 in his practice. And then we've also got folks with much smaller practices. And so again, if you're looking to get some help this year, head on over to practiceofthepractice.com/apply. I'll personally talk with you for half an hour about where you're at and kind of what you're doing. We get more than enough people applying for every phase of help that we don't need to squeeze you into anything. We'll just have an honest conversation around what you're looking for, what you need, and say, hey, here's how much it would cost. And so it's one of those things that it just, we try to help you out as much as we can and give you what we wish we had when we were first starting our practices. Well, speaking of starting a practice, as many of you know and have been following, I am building Great Lakes Online Counseling. And so that's the practice that I started 10 weeks ago. And wow, has it been a wild week. So last time we checked in, we talked about how I accidentally spent almost $1,000 on LinkedIn accidentally, because that's what an accident is. And so go back to that episode. That was episode 1344. But today we're talking about some hiring failures. Oh man, it's been a doozy. I feel for all of you group practice owners. We had 16 applications. So where I spent my time in a 45-minute interview, and then a 5-minute interview. We'll talk about that in a second. And then I also was following up with therapists, and then also working with Tom from Session Sites on the website and website updates. And at the time of this recording, I'm in the home stretch of working before we go do the 7-figure practice retreat down in the Dominican Republic. We're going to have 35 practice owners that have 7 and multi-7 and some 8-figure practices down there. So it's going to be really awesome. I can't wait. The resort, as we look at it, it looks beautiful. So we hopefully can do that next winter as well. So let's talk about some hiring failures here. Well, they weren't necessarily my failures or someone else's failures. It's been more just like kind of how things have played out. So I spent my time in an interview with someone, and we walked through that. And I don't remember if I had talked about that last week or if I was about to. It may have overlapped a bit. So that person ended up taking a different job, but there were some things with that I had to consult with my attorney on. I had to talk with Headway a little bit about. One thing was that person had a whole bunch of Medicaid clients that they would have been bringing into the practice that they're willing to bring in. But then when I talked with Headway, they said that they don't in Michigan support Headway or support Medicaid as part of their billing structure. So I had to kind of sort through, do I, want to do this? And then that person ended up taking another full-time job anyway. So that worked out better for that person. That's great. And then I really feel like I've been chasing after people that I've been, these people have applied for jobs and then they don't respond. So spend a lot of time just kind of thinking about, how do I respond to that? Do I want to chase after people? Had someone who scheduled a interview with me, got the time change wrong, and then rescheduled, and had just some questions about like the ability to communicate. And as you're hiring, I think one thing to think about is if these things that are small right now, good and bad, as you're hiring, were to be magnified, is that the kind of person you want in your practice? And so had that interview and really very quickly figured out that it wasn't a good fit. They didn't turn their video on the Zoom call. Then when they did, the background was definitely not professional. They weren't ready for the interview. The answers were really tough, not straightforward. I would love to give you all the details, but because this is public, I want to also, if that person watches or listens to this, I don't want them to feel bad. But I guess the feedback I would give, if that person were listening, is you're applying for an online counseling job. So you don't, if you as a person are charismatic, loving, happy, whatever, that's not going to shine through except through your email and through the screen. And so emails that are short, like got it or I don't have the link, those stand out as being negative. So I guess I do want to talk through it because I want it to be learning if that person does listen to this. And I'm not going to obviously say their name, where they're from, and so no one could find out who they are. But, those emails back and forth were very short, like, "Hey, I don't have time on that day. Can we meet a different day?" And so for me, as someone hiring someone into the practice, I'm thinking, this isn't how I would want my therapist to communicate with me. It's not gentle. And then, for an online counseling interview on Zoom, one should assume you're going to have video on, so that you can learn how that counselor comes across. And so I had my whole list of questions. I didn't even go through them all. I even said, tell me about your clinical background. And they're like, which one do you want? And then it was like, well, tell me how you're growing in your professional development. Well, I don't really need to grow that much because I've been in the field so long. So it's like when obviously that person just wasn't a fit. And so I think it's interesting to be in this role of trying to get therapists to go beyond the application. And I imagine a lot of you group practice owners out there probably deal with this all the time. I also, with some of my consulting clients, it's been interesting to talk with them and have both the lens of consultant, but then also the lens of owner of Great Lakes Online Counseling, of those who already have a really great reputation in their community. Um, it's really easy, and especially if they're a teaching practice where they do internships that lead into pre-license, that lead into full license. That's a long-term plan. And as I think through this model of Great Lakes Online Counseling, um, is it going to be possible to do this just online? Um, because if I don't have kind of like a anchor somewhere where we're known, that could affect referrals, that could affect the ability to hire. So, I mean, I'm thinking through that, and it's like I don't want the liability of having a physical building. And kind of one of the ideas was that we wouldn't have to have like prime real estate space to have a good practice, and especially the rural areas of Michigan, Pennsylvania, Indiana, Ohio, Illinois, Wisconsin, maybe some of Minnesota, the Great Lakes states, um, to have that idea. So I think I'm really struggling with, okay, how do I get the word out? I did it on LinkedIn. I've been thinking about, so M Live is like a Michigan kind of online newspaper. And I'm thinking about maybe taking a classified out there. Just thinking about like how do I get the word out more? Posted it in some grad school programs. I do think having it listed on the website, like join the team, and then have the submission directly there to be able to point people back to is probably something I'm going to talk with Tom about, building out a page like that. That they can just fill out a form, upload their resume, do it right there. So I'm not going to be beholden to like LinkedIn or other places, and then I can promote it wherever. So I think that's probably part of my strategy moving forward. I did have rose-colored glasses going into this, thinking, we're paying really well. I mean, 40 grand a year for a 20-hour work week. For a lot of therapists, seems like it should be a no-brainer. But then it's also like, well, if we don't have that reputation yet, if we're not known, it's like, who is this place? What is this place? And so I think when I get back from the seven-figure practice retreat, I'm going to really work on more about me, having me on there, like who is the face behind this business? What are we wanting to build here? Having a page specifically, and actually let me bounce over because I started making a website update, kind of what I want to do. So let me put this in here. So I want to work on kind of work here, or blog posts, and then more about Joe, like why we're different, and then like forms for the wait list and applying. Oh, I also need to still get the Google admin, that workspace all set up still. So yeah, I probably spent pretty darn close to 2 hours this week on it, between interviews, following up with people. I did have 4 or 5 people on LinkedIn that had originally applied, that said like, "Hey, this came up. I'm so sorry." And so I ended up setting up a Calendly link for them to find time on my calendar, so we're not going back and forth trying to figure out kind of what's next. So I'm really thinking through finding that balance between starting to market and kind of when we set things up. I do think I need to have that first hire before I start doing psychology today. Really marketing it too much. So I think that's what's next for me. Um, yeah, like it seems like it's part of the process, and there's going to be ups and downs, and that's what's next for me. If you are watching this live, either through Facebook or other places, would love to hear comments on what you think I should do next. Also, you can always drop me an email. Don't forget, also we have the group practice conference coming up in May, where we have over 20 people that are going to be speaking in short 20-minute talks on the main stage. We have breakout sessions throughout an entire art museum. It's going to be incredible here in Traverse City. So around 200 or so clinicians coming into town for that event. So you can sign up over at practiceofthepractice.com/conference. Also, we couldn't do this show without our sponsors. And today, our sponsor is Alma. Alma is just awesome when it comes to if you're a solo practice, really looking to grow, to have your billing done, all of that. They take that all off of your plate. So they help you with scheduling, documentation, day-to-day practice operations. If you head on over to helloalma.com/Joe, again, that's helloalma.com/Joe, you can take a look and just learn more about getting them to help you with the billing, documentation, all of those operations. Also, they have free continuing ed resources. So it makes it so much easier to build the practice of your dreams. Thank you so much for letting me into your ears and into your brain. Have a great day. I'll talk to you soon.